What a game. What an incredible game. It's unfortunate for Rockets fans that the Rockets got to be on the losing end of yet another really, really good game that the Rockets played in. It is now true that the Rockets, after losing, by the way, well, first of all, welcome to the B Block Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for being here. We are here to react to the Rockets 128-125 loss to the Denver Nuggets out in Denver, overtime loss, that is. And it's crazy now that the Rockets are now on the business end of two of the better games that have been played in the NBA this year, and both of which ended in overtime, both of which ended against two of the better teams in the NBA, if not the two best teams in the NBA. Certainly the two best teams in the Western Conference from where I sit, especially after these results against the Rockets. This was a really, really interesting and fun game to watch, but super frustrating how it ended, especially for the Rockets. Some of the calls that went against the Rockets, that didn't go the Rockets' way. And then some of the decision making at the end as well. Like, matter of fact, why don't we start at the very end with the last play of the game? I understand that they gave a lot of attention to Kevin Durant and that Alperen Sengun was pretty much your best player tonight. But that turnaround three to Alperen Sengun to end the game, you'd like to think coming out of a timeout like that you could get a much better, much cleaner look than what the Rockets ended up getting at the end. And this is not the number one thing that I really want to complain about. It's just the recency bias of it all. But that last shot, that final shot, to me was a lackluster ending to what was a really, really, really fun game. I'll tell you what else sucked. Tell you what else was pretty damn terrible. The foul that they called on Amen Thompson with less than a minute to go in overtime, the foul that they called on him against Jamal Murray, where Jamal Murray goes and sinks those two free throws to give him his 34th and 35th points. And the the Nuggets go up 128-122. This is, to me, where it really got egregious. Like, it was a bad call on the floor where they call the foul, where it didn't really look to me like Amen Thompson touched him. But obviously, from just looking at it, he was close enough to him. And Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm thinking about the Tim Hardaway Jr. foul. So this is earlier in the game, the Tim Hardaway Jr. foul. He looks close enough to him to have fouled him, but then they go back and look at it, and he didn't touch him. Like it was incidental contact, and it looks like Tim Hardaway Jr. just tripped on his own feet. And so that was awful. There were several awful calls in this game that if you were watching, and I do want to know if y'all can hit me up in the chat. Were you watching the game on Peacock, or were you watching Space City Home Network? Because Ryan Hollins almost lost his mind several times. I think this is why I got confused on the fouls, because there was that one. There was another one toward the end of the game. I think that's the one that I'm talking about against Jamal Murray, where he's losing his mind, telling him how great of a game it is and how it shouldn't come down to the referees deciding the game. I couldn't agree more. I don't want to spend too much of this live complaining about the referees, as bad as the officiating was in this game. I thought that there were moments where it was really just the Rockets not necessarily playing up to the standard, or at least the necessary standard to beat a Denver Nuggets squad like this on the road in this environment. But yeah, I just, a very disappointing ending to what was a really, really exciting game. So let's start, or go back a little bit to the first quarter and how good things started, how good things really looked from the very beginning. I thought that the Rockets were, they came out about as solid as you would want them to. Alperen Sengun makes like 4 of his first 5 shots. It was kind of a point that Alperen Sengun needed to go as close to band for band with Nikola Jokic as possible. And it looked like he was going to do that at least to start the game. He hit 4 of his first 5 shots. I think he had 10 points in the first quarter, 14 in the first half, but it was really solid. And the Rockets won that first quarter. But where things really went south is, to me at least, is when they kind of stopped going to Alperen Sengun. I can remember a point in the second quarter where Alperen Sengun is actually in the game. And mind you, he just had this really, really good first quarter. And they're running like Reed Shepherd, Clint Capella pick and rolls and shit like that. And Alperen Sengun's on the floor. Like I get when Sengun and Durant are not on the floor and you want to run your offense through Reed Shepherd and you want to run a pick and roll and give Reed an opportunity to kind of operate and give Clint an opportunity to slip toward the basket. But they were doing like really weird stuff in that second quarter, and I thought it cost them. I mean, that was the biggest discrepancy. If you look through it, that's the biggest discrepancy in the game is, every quarter is within 6 points or fewer, but it's that second quarter where the Nuggets actually blow out the Rockets by 13 points. And the shooting discrepancy there is just staggering to me. Like the Rockets shot something like, I just had it pulled up. The Rockets shot 7 of 18 from the field in the second quarter compared to the Nuggets 13 of 24. So just under 39% compared to their 54% and outscored 34 to 21. That to me is where the game was won and or lost, depending on what side of the ledger you're looking at it. If you're the Rockets, that to me is where the game. It wasn't the officiating at the end that was admittedly terrible. And shout out to that boy Steve. Let's be honest, refs gave the game to the Nuggets. The refs were terrible. And some of those calls at the end, like I can agree with this point about the end of the game and how bad the calls were and how impactful the calls were and how that swung it in the Nuggets' favor. And you could even push back and say, on my point, that the Rockets actually overcame that terrible second quarter that they had by even getting it to overtime. I can handle that, but that to me is where that second quarter is kind of where the game went left for the Rockets. Okay, now credit them, right? They fight back and they outplay. I thought the Rockets outplayed the Nuggets in the second half. This is probably what's most frustrating about it. And I appreciate you, Steve, for joining. This is probably what's frustrating about it. As bad as that second quarter was, the Rockets did outplay the Nuggets in the second half. They did. And they played well enough, I thought, to win the game. And to this point, there were some bad calls. There were some bad calls. I see a lot of Rockets fans that are, blaming Adam Silver's NBA and all of this type of stuff. Look, I think sometimes refs are just bad. I don't think it was necessarily in favor of, but they were bad today. Earlier in the game, you get Ime Udoka and Alperen Sengun getting technical fouls on the same play because he got hacked on either back-to-back plays or on 2 out of 3 plays. A couple of them where I'm like, yo, where's the foul? One of them should have been an and one. You've got him going right at Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic probably should have fouled out long before he actually did. Like, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that. But there were opportunities here. And I even thought at the end of the game, there were opportunities. The overtime, I think a big takeaway from overtime, when I was getting text about this, they start Reed Shepherd in overtime, right? Like Josh Okogie started the game, but they went with what I'm going to call their best lineup to start overtime, which is Reed Shepherd, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. That's their best 5-man lineup, in my opinion. The downside of that 5-man lineup is that, and especially at a critical point like overtime, right? The downside of that is that there is a very clear strategy on how to beat the team with just 5 minutes left, and this is the lineup that they're trotting out. And the Nuggets did that. And that's target Reed Sheppard, hunt Reed Sheppard in mismatches. And we saw that with Jamal Murray to start the overtime period. They score the first 4 points or however many it is of the overtime period. And it was at that point that I did feel like the game was going to be slipping away from them. And then to compound that, they missed a couple of shots. How many shots? I'd love to go back and look. How many shots would y'all say, all of y'all who watched the game, how many shots would y'all say rimmed out? I feel like Reed Sheppard had a couple. I feel like Alperen Sengun had a couple. I feel like Jabari Smith Jr. had shots that just would rim out. They got an unlucky bounce in that way. So, yeah, man, it was frustrating. Shout out to Derek, who's in the chat saying that they absolutely outplayed them, in my opinion. Yeah, in that second half, they played a good enough game to win that game. It is very frustrating when you feel like, hey, not only is this, an uphill battle going up against a team that is got a little bit more pedigree, a little bit more experience playing together, at least this core might even be a better team than you because they got arguably the best player in the world. And you do well enough, kind of similar to the OKC game. You do well enough to compete, to win, to force overtime, and you either miss a couple of bunnies or you got some shots that are good looks that rim out. And then you got some of these nonsense foul calls that I just cannot wrap my head around. I'm not conspiracy theory. They got it out for the Rockets or they showing favoritism for the better teams or nothing like that. I don't think it got nothing to do with the teams that are out there. I really don't. I just think sometimes referees, officials across sports are just bad, and they were bad today. The Tim Hardaway Jr., the one that I got confused earlier in the show, the Tim Hardaway Jr. tripping over his feet, and so they call it a foul on the floor. Udoka challenges it, and it's funny watching Amen Thompson look over at Udoka as he's challenging it, like, man, did I really foul him? And Udoka kind of shrugs his shoulder like, yeah, man, I guess we'll see. And then they showed a replay. It was just funny because the broadcasters, Ryan Hollins, was sure that Amen Thompson had fouled him. And then when they showed it again, it's like, nah, man, this dude tripped over his feet. And they went and looked at it. And decided, nah, his shin touched him. Greg Ackerman's like, man, I ain't never heard of a shin foul. I ain't never heard of somebody's shin touching somebody and that causing a foul. That was rough. That was rough. Derek saying, I think the frustrating thing was it was 3 key bad fouls. It was the trip one, he pushed Sengun on a rebound, and the foul on Murray after he poked the ball away from him. That's the one that I was confusing. That's the one at the end. Yeah, that like it there was minimal, and this is also the one where Ryan Hollins, I think, is about to lose his shit. That's the one I was talking about. Minimal contact on that one. I know I said earlier I didn't want to be the one that's complaining about the officiating, but that part stood out. Going back to this comment here, the frustrating thing is it was 3 key bad fouls that didn't go your way. Now, can I play a little bit devil's advocate? Not to be that guy, Derek. Not to be that guy. You being the Rockets did foul out Nikola Jokic in this game. How much time was left when Nikola Jokic fouled out of the game? Was it a minute and a half? So a minute and a half left. Nikola Jokic fouls out. And shout out to Reed Sheppard too. Because that was a moment I was about to lose my mind. And then it's like, oh no, oh yes. Because Amen Thompson gets the ball with a perfect opportunity to go right at Nikola Jokic, who had 5 fouls, and he gives it up to Reed Sheppard. And thankfully, Reed Sheppard has a mind to go right at Nikola Jokic and draw that 6th foul. But that was one of those moments where I was really disappointed in Amen not necessarily making that aggressive move. And then at some point, like it's weird the times where he decides to be aggressive and the moments where he doesn't. But I thought that was a moment for him to kind of force the issue a little bit and try to get Nikola Jokic out of the game. It ended up being a non-issue because Reed Shepard promptly did that as soon as he was past the ball. But just to play the devil's advocate just a little bit, it was a minute 30, minute 23 technically from what I'm looking at, but around a minute and a half left, Nikola Jokic fouls out of the game, and you're only down 4 at that point, right? 5, 4 or 5 at that point. So there was an opportunity there. And if I'm a Nuggets fan, I don't know what Nuggets fans are talking about right now, but if they had lost this game and Nikola Jokic had fouled out, they would have had some things to say about it too. And I thought that was a legit foul, but if I was a Nuggets fan on that 6th foul on Jokic, I probably would have been complaining too. Like, you could have let that go. Tic-tac. It was bad officiating. The Rockets were on the wrong end of it, on the business end of it, but it was bad officiating, I thought. Let's see. Let's look at some of these comments. Yeah, Steve mentions at least 3 in OT. I think that's a comment about the shots that rimmed out. That felt like a theme offensively for the Rockets in OT, like just shots not falling. Good shots not falling. And that's not talking about the last shot that they took. That was a terrible shot. And I don't understand how that was the play out of a timeout. I get they're shading towards Kevin Durant, but the fadeaway 3 for Alperen Sengun is not the thing that I would have gone with. Through all that, this is from Derek. Through all that, I understand KD making the best basketball plays and passing to Sengun in short rolls to make a decision, but him only getting 4 shots in the 4th and OT. I'm assuming you're meaning that that's not like something that you would prefer. Yeah, no. Look, would love for KD to take more shots than that. But I did not mind some of the basketball plays that were made by him, like some of the decisions. I thought more than anything, I just wanted them to continue to go with the KD Alperen Sengun action. That is their best action. And as long as they're on the floor, especially in critical minutes and in crunch time, I would almost never go away from it. I would never go away from it. Gotta have it. Trying to close out a game. KD and Alperen Sengun are on the floor at the same time. They should be running 2-man game. They should be running pick and roll. There was one play where they did it, and credit to Tim Hardaway Jr. for stepping up and taking a charge on Alperen Sengun. But I would have just gone right back to it. I would have just done it again and done it over and over and over again, really until they master it. And that is, even without them having mastered it, is your best action. Derek mentions that they missed 6 layups from rimming out. Yeah, it felt like at least that. And I do want to point out, I guess since we're doing a Rockets hit here, that this was another Amen Thompson game where his shooting was terrible, but his numbers overall make it seem like he might have had a good game. And I was frustrated almost the entire time watching Amen Thompson in this game. The guy's missing bunnies. The guy looks a little bit out of control headed to the basket. What was the point that we made on Twitter? Like, kind of like he's going 1,000 miles an hour toward the basket. He looks like a bat out of hell going to the basket when he's got the ball in his hands. I almost am at the point where I'm cool with some on-ball Amen Thompson, but especially against the best teams, I feel like they're better off minimizing that unless it's in transition, right? like half court on ball of Ben Thompson, I'm feeling like it needs a little bit of work. And by a little bit of work, I mean they need to shelve it a little bit and let him be the amazing player that he is off the ball, the threat that he is athletically. I was at the game that they played here back in November, and Amen Thompson in the dunker spot was basically giving Nikola Jokic like nightmares, like just not even what he was doing, just his presence there. Nikola's trying to watch the ball. Jokic is trying to watch the ball. He's trying to watch Amen Thompson, and it's just confusing because this guy is so quick and so sudden. Him with the ball, not ideal. Steve says not to be that dude, but that female ref was calling everything in favor of the Nuggets. Now she got to be a female, Steve, when she mess your team over. You got to call her out by a certain characteristic. That is hilarious. Probably actually not hilarious. Probably don't want to be that dude. But yeah, I did notice that. Who was it at the end of the game? Did y'all catch this? Y'all tell me. With Jabari, he was pointing his finger and like cussing out at least one of those referees at the end of the game. Was that the woman ref? Who was that? Jabari Smith Jr. not a happy camper after this game. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, Ime Udoka and Alperen Sengun got teed up on the same play. You want to talk about how bad the officiating is? The player and the coach get teed up on the same play. And I think there were a lot of people that were surprised that Udoka did not get thrown out for how demonstrative he was with the referees at that point. And I want to say too, I thought he was right. I thought points were being made. He was saying, if I'm reading lips correctly and remembering correctly, he was saying, open your eyes and call the fucking foul. Fair, dude. Fair point. Derek points out that this is why I believe the Rockets are good enough to contend. They are right there with these upper teams. So it's why I believe Tari and DFS will be important for this team. This is a pregame story. I'm glad you mentioned this, Derek. I appreciate it. Tari, there was a thought that Tari might be available for this game, but there was a little bit of soreness from the workout, and they decided to not play him in this game. But this is a really, really good point. Like, the reason why I don't get discouraged about the Rockets, or specifically when they lose to these better teams, let's just use the OKC opener, these two overtime, let's book in the season right now with the season opener and then this most recent game. Took the best teams in the league to overtime without their full cast, without a fully healthy Rockets team as we know it. Now, I'm not saying like DFS would have been the difference in beating Oklahoma City, or that Tari Eason would have been the difference tonight in beating the Denver Nuggets. But certainly you feel a lot better about the team if they've got both of those guys as a part of the mix, both what they do defensively and as knockdown shooters. And that's something that they were missing in that second quarter that I talked about. And they just flat out don't have as many knockdown shooters. This is talked about quite a bit of how they're one of the better offenses in the league, and they're able to do so without really shooting a ton of threes. I think at one point they were shooting the fewest threes in the league. I'm not sure if that's still true, but not too long ago, they were shooting the fewest threes in the league and had like a top 3 offense in rating. I'd like to think that would look a lot better, even if the volume doesn't go up a ton, which I would imagine it would go up some. I would like to think that getting DFS in the mix and Tari Eason back, who was shooting threes incredibly before he got injured, and especially early in the season after the first couple of games of the season, he was on a streak there where he was shooting lights out from 3. That's going to help them a lot. So, yeah, I'm with you there. And hey, I'm with this from Red Lobo. Why didn't Alpi inbound that last play? I think we would have gotten a better shot than that. I was okay when I literally asked this as they were coming back from, out of the timeout. I was like, who's inbounding the ball? It's Jabari. I was cool with that. I typically like my inbounder to be tall and to be able to knock down a wide open shot, to be able to get it on the comeback and to knock down a shot. I was okay with that. I didn't think that was what was going to happen. They were trying to get the ball to KD, but yeah, this was my takeaway. And by the end of it, I'm like, out of all of that, poor shooting poor shooting second quarter, poor officiating, and out of all of that, you got an opportunity to do something at the end, and that's your shot. That's your shot out of a timeout. Also felt like he rushed it just a little bit. He shot it like it was, what was there left? Was it 2 or 3 seconds? He shot it like it was, 1 second left. It was 2 seconds left. Or it was like 5 seconds left. Yeah. He shot it like it was 1 second left. I felt like he could have got a dribble in, might have even been able to risk a pass. Another pass might have been a little bit too risky. But that shot like that in that moment, Red Lobo, I couldn't agree with you more, man. That was not the shot. That was not the shot. Uh Mr. B Face points out they were going to foul him, so he had to. Fair point. Fair point. But didn't look like okay, so they're gonna foul you and all you got is 2 free throws, or you take like the least likely shot that you're gonna make, or the least percentage shot. Like, they were kind of in a rock and a hard place at that point. But my point here really is the look. Okay, they were gonna foul him, so he had to. But the look in and of itself, and it's not like Jabari's got a lot of time to make a decision. You're either giving the ball more than likely to KD or Alperen Sengun. Ideally, to me, you're setting something up for KD or Reed Shepherd, your best 3-point shooters. I would have liked to have seen one of them get the ball one way or another. But yeah, I'm just I'm with you. They were going to foul him, so they had to. That just wouldn't have been that. I guess is not where I would have gone with the ball. What else we got here? And I appreciate everybody who hopped in here. Um, it's been really good. And what a game! Like, I don't want to take away. Like, we're doing this through Rockets colored lenses, and it doesn't feel good to lose, especially losing that fashion. To feel like the officiating had something to do with it. To feel like you left a little bit out there on the floor, which, as well as the Rockets played, and as much as I want to credit them, I felt like they left a little bit out there on the floor. They outplayed them in the second half, but I thought that second quarter was lackluster. But what a game. Can we sit and appreciate that for a second before I get out of here? Like, I know it's late, I know it's past midnight. And again, I appreciate everybody for being here. Check out the B Block podcast, tell people about it, subscribe. We'll do plenty of stuff like this. This is probably the first live that I've done on a podcast reacting to a Rockets game. I don't know how I got removed from on stage, but yeah, like that's an amazing game. An amazing game. Just like the basketball watching part of it, to me was incredible. Hey, what's going on? What is happening here with this? Can I not add? What is happening here? I can't add comments without killing my video. This is not a production quirk that I've run into, so y'all have to forgive me for this. But um, Mr. B-Face pointed out that Joker was sitting in the dunker spot all night because look, that's where a lot of the damage can be done. That's where a lot of the damage can be done. I'm gonna have to get out of here so I can figure out why in the hell it is that when I pop up one of y'all's comments, my my camera removes. Sorry to the audio only audience that is not gonna notice this whenever I post it, but that's throwing me off a little bit. But yeah, he was sitting in the dunker spot quite a bit. Um, and a lot of people are saying the only grace they'll get at last shot is that they thought that uh the foul might be coming. I don't understand why that's happening, but yeah, they thought that the foul might be coming, and that's why he rushed the shot. Says that's why Derek says that he's coping. You know, that's his way to cope. I look, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Hell of a game from Pacers Tink. And again, not sure why I keep fading like that, but hell of a game. These two teams are going to go deep in the playoffs. I look, you can give me 7 of those. That's probably the big takeaway from both those overtime games to start the season against the Thunder, and then this one that we just watched. I'll take 7 of those. How about that cup game with the Thunder and the Spurs? I know we don't like neither one of them teams, but I'll take 7 of those. This game tonight, I'll take 7 of those if I get them. You know? Now, I was explaining to my girl earlier that it is an interesting numbers game in the West if we're going to concede that, you know, based off of this incredible start by the Thunder, they all but got that number 1 seed wrap. Like they're gonna take that. That's gonna be their thing. Um, but look, I'm not gonna be able to pop y'all's comments up there anymore. I'm not sure exactly what said and I've screwed up, but we're not gonna be able to do that anymore. At least not in this live. But the numbers game that I'm talking about is like who all's in that fight for those 2 spots after the Thunder, right? So if you look at this, you've got, of course, the Thunder at the top, but you've really got what looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5 really good teams fighting to be the 2 and 3 seed. Why is it important to be the 2 or 3 seed? Because you want to prolong the matchup with the Thunder as much as possible, right? So if you're one of the 4 or 5, no matter if you're the 4 or the 5, you win that series. It is basically just for the right to play the Thunder in the semifinals. And you would like to wait until the conference finals as best as possible to face them. Literally anybody else in the semifinals but the Thunder. So you're trying to get either the 2nd seed that Denver now has or this 3rd seed that it looks like the Lakers and the Spurs have the same record right now for 3 and 4, and the Rockets are in that 5th seed. Yeah. Yeah, and they were ahead of both teams before this game because they were ahead of them in the loss column. They had 1 fewer loss. But yeah, man, this is going to be an interesting stretch to see who are the teams that get that 2nd and 3rd seed. Are the Rockets better than? Look, I love how they played the Nuggets tonight, but I don't think based off of the 2 games from the games that we've seen, we'll see them again on Saturday. I don't feel like as Rockets fans, you can honestly say that they're better than them right now as much as you might want to. Are they better than the Spurs? I know they lost to the Spurs. Are they better than the Lakers? There's only room for 2. to stay out of that 4-5. Only room for two. Is that Denver and the Lakers? Is that Denver and the Spurs? Looks like Denver is going to be one of them. And these are the games that matter in determining that type of thing. So, yeah, man, look, I enjoyed this game despite the fact that the Rockets lost it. Enjoyed this game. I wish that the referees and the officiating was better. I wish the shooting in the second quarter was better. I wish that Amen Thompson was finishing around the rim and in the paint something closer to what he had been in years prior. I wish that Kevin Durant had gotten the ball at the end and wouldn't have even minded if Reed Shepherd got the ball at the end for that last shot instead of Alperen Sengun, who is shooting the three a lot better this year, we'll admit, but is still nobody's real three-point shooter, I would say. Like, he's not Jokic out there shooting three. Didn't really love that. I should mention the numbers, though, because the numbers were compelling in this game. You've got, and we said this earlier, you needed Sengun to do his best to go band for band against Nikola Jokic after having not done that the last time that they played. Sengun finishes this game with 33 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. That is his first triple-double of the season. And if I remember the broadcast correctly, they said the 9th of his career. But 14 to 27 from the field. Again, a triple-double, 33, 10, and 10. Had a couple steals, had a block, managed to not foul out of the game. His counterpart did. So that was really good. I'd point out, too, and I don't know how I got this far before I get out of here. Can we give Kevin Durant a shout out for his help defense? Can we give him a shout out for his help defense? He finished this game with 5 blocks. And we saw a couple of them there down the stretch. One of them on Nikola Jokic. I'm trying to remember who the other one was on. He blocks that one from behind on Nikola Jokic. But then it was like his help defense, his shot blocking, aside from the 25 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 2 or 3 from 3, it was just kind of a shrug your shoulder, typical offensive night for Kevin Durant. Would have loved for him to take more shots, for him to have taken more shots. But the help defense, we don't really talk about Kevin Durant as a defender much. He was incredible. He was incredible with his help defense tonight. So I wanted to point that out. Jabari Smith Jr., 6 of 11 from the field, had 16 and 10. Thought it was a real solid game from Jabari. And Amen, I just mentioned again, 14, 12, and 6. Feels like it's pretty rough to sneeze at. But 5 of 13 from the field. And it's not like he's taking, a bunch of really tough contested shots other than the ones that are close to the basket. And it seems like those are the ones that he should make. He's either shooting wide open jumpers or something contested at the rim that seems like it should be more suited for his game. So you'd like to see a better stat line than that. Yeah. What is this about? How do I stop that from happening? The whole visual effect thing. Not sure. It's frustrating. We need more of that from KD. I agree. I agree. We need more of that from KD. Would have liked to have seen him shoot the ball a lot more. Reed Shepherd, 5 of 17 from the floor. Let me bring this part up. that was rough. That was rough. But also, I thought that was a big part of that was like go back to all of those ones that rimmed out or that were close. Not just from three, but even some of his twos, some of his middies that we know he's really good at. There were some that were just close that just rimmed out that like it's not like he all of a sudden forgot how to shoot the ball. He just was, I think, unlucky at times tonight. So I wouldn't put too much into that. Obviously, he had that big game at the time. It was a career. I was at that game. I think I mentioned this earlier. At the time, it was a career high 27 against them in November, and yeah, I thought he was unlucky. He's still a really really good shooter, and I was good with. I liked him being aggressive. 17 is rich. I'll give you this. 5 of 17 is unacceptable if Kevin Durant's only going to take 14 shots. You take 17 shots and 3 more shots than Kevin Durant, you're gonna have to make more than 5 of them. I will give you that. That was rough. Uh, yeah. So I'm gonna do the Rockets Collective with Will and Brado. You're a big time Rockets fan. You should know those guys. We're gonna do Rockets Collective and all react to this game tomorrow. I can't wait, man. The last couple of weeks that we've done the show have been actually um fun, but not as much to talk about. We didn't have this type of thriller to break down the last couple of times that we talked, the last couple of times that we did the show. And even last week, I think Will wasn't able to join us, so it was just me and Brad. So it should be all three of us back tomorrow. Rockets Collective. Make sure that you follow the Rockets Collective or subscribe to it on YouTube. You can also get it wherever it is that you get your audio only podcast as well. Should be checking in with Jackson Gatlin at some point this week too on Locked On Rockets. Didn't talk to him last week if I'm remembering correctly. We were at a game together, but we did like our quarter of the season review roundtable. Myself, him, Madison Moore, and Ben DeBose, which was really good. But we should probably check back in at some point this week as well. So Rockets Collective on YouTube and wherever it is you get your podcast. Locked On Rockets on YouTube and wherever it is you get your podcast. And of course, this very platform that we're on right now, the B Block Podcast. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. I appreciate y'all for staying up late. I know it wasn't me that y'all stayed up late for. It was actually, the really cool and fun basketball that we got to watch, and I'm thankful for it. I was glad to watch it. I was glad to stay up and be able to do this. Uh, I did a live yesterday on the Texans game. This one on the Rockets seems to have gone pretty well as far as I can tell. So, what y'all say we keep this up? Do this again. If I'm not in the arena for a particular night when they're on the road, y'all know I don't travel. I don't mind popping on here, man. It doesn't have to necessarily go 40 minutes per se, but we can break down these Rockets, chop it up, have a good time, and hopefully we get better results next time when they go to overtime with a contender like that. I'm Brandon Scott, B Block Podcast. Subscribe, tell a friend. See you soon.